Hey, can you get found on Google? I'm going to share with you the top 10 SEO secrets to get you found.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest news, products, and politics from today's leading industry pros, offering you their technical marketing and growth strategies to give you, the pest management professional, that killer edge.
Hey, and welcome to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. This is Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek, talking all things pest, politics, and SEO. In this session of the Pest Geek podcast, we're going to be discussing the top 10 on-page SEO tactics that you can use to get your page, your website, found on Google. Now, according to Wikipedia, search engine optimization is the process of affecting the visibility of a website or web page in a search engine's unpaid results. That means either organic or what is known as free searches. So when somebody is searching for you on Google, those searches that come up freely are the ones that you're to be found. Now, that's a pretty good definition by Wikipedia. And I'm going to share with you those top 10 tactics that you can use, that you must use on every page that you built on your website if you're going to optimize it with SEO. Now, everything revolves around SEO, search engine optimization. Everything on the web revolves around this mentality. Facebook revolves around SEO. YouTube revolves around SEO. Every social media, everything that you do revolves around SEO. And if you understand that everything that is on the web is actually a search engine within itself, and that it is going to look for the same things relatively, then you're going to be able to grasp this across every platform that you do, that you will be able to optimize those platforms. And let me explain to you that. But before I do that, I would love to tell you about Audible. Now, if you're like me, you love to listen to audio and good content. And I love audiobooks. And if you want to get your free 30-day trial and a free book, you can go now to audibletrial.com/pestgeek to get your free trial. And then now we're going to be talking about SEO. So what is search engine optimization? It is basically a set of rules that you must apply to every page in order for that page to have its optimal search engine capability, or be as optimal as it can be, so that when somebody is searching for something, Google or Yahoo or Bing or YouTube or anybody can give you exactly what you're looking for, or as close as possible to what you're looking for. Now, we have created a YouTube channel, and we're going to have about, by the time you listen to this podcast, there should be at least 2 to 3 videos up showing you how to do certain tactics within this strategy. Understand that SEO is not a tactic. SEO is a strategy. And inside that strategy, the closest thing I can relate it to you to is integrated pest management. Integrated pest management is not all about insecticides. It's about having multiple tactics available to you depending on the pest species that you are dealing with. And if you understand the insect biology and you understand how that insect behaves, then you can create a strategy of control for those particular insects. The same is with SEO. If you understand how Google works, if you understand how search engines work, YouTube is the second largest search engine out there besides Google. It so happens that Google owns them too. So when you're looking for a video, you're typing in certain things and you're hoping to get what you're looking for in return, or what you searched for. the same way it is with optimizing your page. And a lot of the common mistakes I've seen, even with people who have worked for me doing work on my pages and on my design, is that a lot of web designers, and check this out because this is going to drive you insane, a lot of web designers do not know SEO and do not understand it. They are more graphically oriented than they are technically oriented in the side of the marketing of that website and the selling of that website than it is design. They're focused on graphics. They're focused on overall design, appeal, that so when somebody gets on your website that they're attracted to it. But that's it. That's as far as they go. And then they will have to refer you to somebody to do the SEO portion of it. And a lot of the things that you ask them to do for you, if you're going to ask them to put the content into your website, be prepared for them to do a lot of things wrong because that is not their capability. And it is about getting that structure, getting about that overall design, getting the buttons in the right place, making sure that this little graphic is here and that graphic is designed well. But when it comes to SEO, a lot of them fall apart. And I've had that experience already with a couple of people that design websites that they don't do SEO. Even companies that say they will do SEO for you are not going to do these basic things for you on your website. They're going to do off-site SEO, which we will discuss in another podcast. So understand that when you're asking somebody to do SEO, are they going to do your on-site SEO or are they going to do your off-site SEO? And I think that you are responsible. Either you're going to have to hire somebody to do it or you're going to have to do it yourself to do the on-site SEO and have that be spot on. Because if not, it doesn't really matter what happens off-site. And off-site is what happens in another website that links to yours. What happens in Facebook? What happens in Twitter? What happens in another blog? Okay? That's what we need to look at. So I'm going to be talking about getting 10 tactics that you need to have on every page that you design in order to have the best chance of ranking. Okay? And understand that this is not guaranteed because Google does not guarantee you that if you do all of this, you'll automatically be on the first page. Remember that there's only so many spots available on that first page, and that's prime real estate. And everybody's going to fight for that prime real estate. But what I found is that the majority of things, a majority of sites that are in local markets are a lot of national things, national brands, and there's nobody to compete on the local level, and therefore that's why you don't see a lot of it. Because most people don't know how to do this. This is like speaking, Latin, describing insects to a lot of people, and they just don't get it. But I think if you pay attention and you look at the set of videos that we're doing on YouTube, you will be able to grasp this. The first thing you have to do is, this is assuming that your website is built. The structure of your website is built. You've got your main page, and you are responsible for giving the person designing your pages, let's say your initial 5. This is the big 5 pages, your home page, your about page, your services page. You are responsible to give them the keywords that they're going to use in every one of those pages and the name of that URL that you're going to name it, because you don't want to change that name later. That is a big nightmare. Once your page has been Google has already crawled it, and Google has already gotten your sitemap, which is another thing that you have to create as a sitemap. You got to tell Google what pages are actually on there, and so Google can look for them. And so you need to make sure that you do this first. Don't do this afterwards. It says, we'll decide on the page names later. You want to have everything, your name of your website, your targeted keyword for that website, the word that you want to rank for. You want to have that beforehand, before those pages are built. Okay? Understand the importance of that this all has to be done first and not afterwards. And usually it's done afterwards. And that's where the big mistakes happen. This is where the costly problems are. So you're going to choose, and we're going to show you in the video that you're going to look at for AdWords, that you've already chosen your keywords, and you've gotten your list of keywords that you're going to build your website off of. You're going to build all these 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 pages deep that you have to build this website, because you got to have, let's say if you're doing ant control, well, you need to have one page for ant control, and then you need to have one page for roach control, and you have one page for rodent control, and you have one page for whatever other type of insect, bee control, whatever it is you're doing. You want one separate page because you need to build depth. You can't just have this superficial website with 5 pages and expect Google to rank it. Okay? It has to have depth. And it has to, what all these other pages are going to do is they're going to push up your main page, your main URL, which is the name of your company. Let's say it's ABC Pest Control, www.abc Pest Control. Well, that is going to, the one that Google is going to push up based on all the other pages that are related to it. All right. So number one is your page URL. That the URL is that name that you're going to give the page. That, let's say it's ABC Pest Control / Ant Control Houston, and we're going to use Houston throughout this whole because it's just easier to stay with one city and let it flow, so you can kind of get the idea. So if it's Pest Control Houston, then it's going to be abcpestcontrol.com / Ant Control Houston, abcpestcontrol.com / Roach Control Houston. You get my drift? The roach control relates to the city, which tells the search engines that pest control is done primarily in Houston. Okay? Unless you are a multi-city, multi-county, then you're going to focus on the county that you're doing business in. And you should have, I think there's over 2 million people in Houston. It's a huge city. So, I mean, if you take the county that it's in and you start breaking up all those suburbs, you will be able to create one page for every one of those suburbs that you service separately, not all together. Okay, so are you getting the drift about building this website deep in order to be able to rank? So now that URL, that's your directory of where those pages are. That's your addresses for those pages. Okay, and they have to be descriptive about what you're talking based on your keyword research of what people are looking for. So these keywords are based on what people actually typed into Google in that city, what they're looking for. And you're going to build the pages based on what people are looking for, not what you think you would want them to find. And that's the secret. You're not writing for you. You are writing for somebody else. And those titles that you give those pages are going to determine whether those people find what they are looking for and not what you would like to give them. You're going to give them what you would want to give them and what they need to know in your content. But your page titles and your page descriptions have to be based on those keywords. All right. Now, the use of H tags. This is vitally important that you understand H tagging. And what H tagging is a header tag that tells Google, this is the header, this is the title of my page, and this is what it is about. And in that heading is Google's going to crawl that page, and there are going to be several headings in there, but your main one needs to be an H1 setting. That is your main tag, okay? And what happens is that a lot of web designers build pages, and you see they use bolding. And this is what H1 will do, is bold it out in a different font, because you have a different font for every H tag that you have in there. But what it's telling the search engine is this is what it's about. What it tells the reader is, oh, there's a nice bolded topic that you can focus on to understand what we're about. So you do it for both. You're doing it for the reader and you're doing it for the search engine. And what a lot of designers will do is they'll just use bolding, and it looks really pretty, but it's not telling the search engine anything. It's telling the reader, but the first person that needs to find it is the search engine, not the reader. The reader is going to find it based on what the search engine decides to serve up. And that's why you need to write for two people. So your H1 tags H2 tags, H3, H4 tags. Will all have different size fonts, but it will tell the search engine this is a heading. And the way you apply this, let me explain to you how you apply. Let's say you're talking about ant biology, and you're going to be, in every one of your insects, you're going to have this parameter. We're going to be talking, our H1 heading is, we're going to be talking about ants. Okay, ant control Houston. The next heading is, well, they need harborage. So how do they get into your house? So you would put ant harborage, let's say, and you're going to put an H4 tag there. That's going to tell that that's a new paragraph, that's a new subject within the main subject. And then you'll tell them about food. And then ant prefers these types of food, prefers sugary sweets or prefer proteins. And you will make that a heading. It's kind of like paragraph titles for your content. You can't just write one big giant page of text. You need to break it down to make it easy to read for people that are probably in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade reading level education that are going online. And you need to break it down. Have your sentences in no more than 2 to 3 sentences per paragraph. Very, very short sentences, very brief, but you want to make it deep. Okay, so you're going to be talking about ant biology, you got a heading. You're going to be talking about ant water, that they need water and why they need water. Ants control in Houston, and then they have water. Okay, so now you have 3 headings inside of your text. This is vitally important that you get this, okay? Now, what you're going to do after that is that's going to optimize your text. In your heading that you choose for that name, you're also going to use pretty much the same heading, and the keywords that you chose have to be in the H1 tag of that title page. So in other words, how to control or how to perform pest control in Houston, but it has to be in there. You have to write in a way that when you choose a keyword, you have to be able to integrate it within the grammar. It has to be able to read well. It just can't be stuffed in there and doesn't read well, because the reader's going to say either these people are illiterate and I don't really know what they're writing and I can't read this. The search engines won't know the difference, but the readers will when they leave your page and Google says that page has a huge bounce rate and we're not going to refer it because nobody wants to read it. People are on there 2 seconds and then they're gone. You see, so you need to make your text engaging that people will want to read it. It just can't be splurring out data unless you're a data site that people go. But people are customers that are looking for information about what you do, how you do it for them, and if they're looking for what they want. Okay, if you're not an organic pest control company and you're doing spraying, then you just need to be upfront about that and don't title yourself eco-friendly when everything you do is spray everything. And that you're organic, that you're natural when you don't use natural products, because it gets misleading. People will bounce off your page, Google won't write it, and people won't buy from you because you stuffed it in there when you really don't do that. And that's become really popular. People just put safe pest control and they'll build a page with safe pest control. And the people are saying, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for a company who talks about organics and talks about safe chemicals, and they use natural chemicals. And people are looking for specific things online. And this is why keyword research is so important. You got to know what you offer, because there's a market for everything. Not everybody wants natural pest control. Not everybody's going to want organic pest control. What people don't want is people who just are careless and negligible. But if you're honest, you say, listen, we do spraying, and this is what we do. That's fine. That's who you are. And I got plenty of people who call me that want me to spray everything, and we just don't do it. That's just not part of what we do. That's not part of our market. That's not a part of our demographics that we're going after. But that's okay. There's plenty of people doing that. And I will even refer them to some of my competitors that do what they want for the price they want to do it. So understand that as long as you're legitimate about what it is that you're offering, and don't offer something that you don't offer as part of your core business. Okay? Because you don't want people bouncing off your page. All right? So now what you'll do is you're going to be creating this body that has a title, that has subheadings inside of it, and that has at least 350 words. Okay, a minimum. If you're doing a blog, you're going to have to crank that up to about 1,500 words. The difference is that people who are going to read blogs are readers, and they were looking for deep information. They're not looking for superficial information. It's not like a postcard that you're hanging out where you have bullet points and all people are interested is the bullet points that you want to get across. Web design and blog design are different. And if you're going to have a page on your website, people want to be able to read something that gives them enough information about you, but that doesn't overload them. If you have a blog, my blog pages are anywhere between 800 to 3,000 words because I have things that I've written for certain people that are looking for that. You see, and it's all about knowing your target and knowing who it is that you're writing for. If you're writing for doctors and lawyers, you wouldn't write at an 8th grade level. You would write in a very technical way. But since you're writing for customers, the average reading age, the average reading level of a customer is about the same as a newspaper. It's about 10th grade. Okay, so understand that. Now, what you want to have in there is if you're writing an article about ants, okay, who are you going to choose for your source? And this is vitally important because if you're writing in technical information that customers need to know, you're writing things. You want to use, and I'll tell you why from an SEO perspective, this is the smartest thing you could do. You want to use your local state university. And I'll tell you why. Google is going to value who you link to as much as they're going to value who's linking to you. So if you've got good links, in other words, you're not linking to this crazy website about organics out there somewhere in the middle of the desert where they've discovered that they can cure everything with one pesticide. Unless that's what you're about, and there's a market for that too, and that's fine. But I'm saying if you're the average pest control company, you want to get reputable information. So your reputable sites for your information are going to be your local university IPM program, the EPA, the CDC, the Center for Disease Control. If you're going to be talking about roach diseases, you want to quote the CDC. How do you do it? You find a reputable source online. In other words, a site, a website like the CDC that has a page that talks about the diseases of pests, of roaches. In this particular case, you want to be as precise as possible. You don't want to be general. So when you're quoting your material, you're going to rewrite it in a way. You don't want to plagiarize their material. You don't want to copy it off their website. You will get slapped for that. One, you will get slapped by them, and second, Google will slap you for plagiarizing. You need to write original content. You got to rewrite it. It's kind of like when you were in school and the teacher said, okay, now tell me in your own words. This is what you want to do. You want to rewrite some of that material. And then you want to have a link to it as the source. So you take a piece of the word according to the CDC, and there's a link. Why? Google's going to say, is that a reputable source? And government sites are among the highest of being of reputable sources. So Google is, the secret is, and you would not believe how many people write pages and have absolutely no links in their pages, and they're wondering why their site isn't ranking. This is why I can beat a lot of people out in the local market, because they're just not going through all this trouble of doing this, and you need to do it. You will quote a page. In other words, you do a little short, maybe an abstract, or you take a page that maybe the university wrote, and it's 1,200 pages, 1,200 words, or 28 pages. I'll take a PhD dissertation and just break it down to an abstract, and then I will link and say, if you want to read more on this, go to this link. And if they want to read a 28-page PhD dissertation, on their weekend, that's their prerogative. But I am giving them enough information that they can make an educated choice as a consumer. So you want to link all the content that's in there, at least one reputable link. If you're going to talk about the environment and how IPM, EPA has a great website on IPM that you can refer a link to that. And you don't want to be afraid that if you link to one of these sites, people are not going to want to do business with you. Unless you're one of those people that, because look, I got customers all the time that says, just give me more pesticide, make it twice as strong, make it illegal. I don't care. We don't do it, but they're customers who ask us for that. And I just say, look, Mr. Customer, we are not about that. We don't do that. And, I don't know who to recommend you in that case, because I hate to, do that. But, it's like you got to be not afraid to be able to link outside. The whole issue of internet marketing is that it's the same idea of you being in a conversation with 2 or 3 people and a name of somebody comes up and you say, oh, I know so-and-so. I had dinner with him last week. That carries social weight, because if you really did have dinner with that person's important. He's part of your circle of influence. And on social media and on the web, it's about having that weight of who do you know, who knows you, you see? And if you know these people, then refer to them. If they know you, and I've got some people that work with me in the extension service that will link back to me on some of the stuff I've written because they like it and they found it useful. And other people might find it useful. See, it's all about that give and take. And you have to be able to lose that fear that somehow when you create a link, here's the important part. You got to create that link in a new tab, to open in a new tab. You do not want those people going off of your website, because Google will say then your stuff wasn't interesting. You open it up in a new tab. When they're done reading that new tab, they can close it and your website is still open according to Google. That is very vital. Okay, so all tags have to open, all external tags that link to somebody else have to open up in a new tab. If they're linked internally to you, to another page that you have, that maybe you wrote another page, a customer says, I know about ants, and if you want to read more about roaches, here's a link to our roach page. And then you internally link that, and that is also vitally important, that you have sufficient internal links, that the stuff that people are reading can be going back and forth within your website. Okay? Let's talk about creating city pages. Okay? If you are going to target a local market, you can't just be so narrow that say, I only target this suburb, unless you really only target that suburb, and unless there is enough business for you in that one suburb that you can do business. I have that. I have one of those suburbs that's 35,000 homes. And in those suburbs, it's very affluent, very modern city, very easy to move around in, and I do most of my business there where I started. We branched out now into other cities, but I still do the bulk of my business there. Okay, so unless you can do that, but what I would recommend is that you build city pages. In other words, you're going to go to Google and you're going to look up the cities that people are looking up in that county. The county is your key. You're going to do your searching by county, because then you can really narrow that down. And it's all about narrowing it down. All right. And you'll create cities. So let's say there's 26 cities within that county that Houston is in. You're going to create one page for every one of those cities. So it might be Houston Pest Control, and then another city Pest Control, or Pest Control, and whatever's showing up that you find showing up in Google AdWords that you're going to be doing your keyword research in. So if you got 28 cities, you're going to create 28 pages if you're covering that whole county. So let's suppose you only want to cover the west side of the county. Well, you go to your demographics and you find all the cities that are just on the west side. And then you can stay in a localized area, and everybody that looks up that information, your page will show up because it is being referred. You'd be surprised how many pages are out there that are not doing this, even national pages. My website has beat out national advertisers, national companies, because they're not focused locally. I am. I'm focused only on local, and I'm just passionate about it, and I'm extremely focused. So that's what you do, is you create a city page for every city, and then you create a locations page that you're linking all those cities to. Okay? So example, you're doing, ABC Pest Control Houston, right? Now you're going to create abcpestcontrol.com/locations. And you're going to tag them as locations. And I'm going to tell you why, because you're going to have to use a tool that's provided by Google Webmaster called Schema Markup. And you're going to tell Google, I am physically here, but these are sub-locations of places where we serve. Google has no way of knowing this. You have to tell it everything. It is like a dumb child. You have to tell it. It doesn't know. It has to be taught. And what Google will learn to do is Google will learn from your website how you're structured and how you do, and they will learn how to serve up the data. You see, so you want to do a locations page that has all these cities in it, and they have links to all those other pages that you've created that say, Pest Control Houston, Pest Control this, Pest Control that, and this other city, and they're all listed. Okay? So that's how you want to do it, and that's the best way that Google has come out and said, this is the best way to do that. If you have multiple locations, you create one page for every location, and you treat every city as a location. What will happen then is, if you decide to open up a route, or you'll decide to open up another office, you can easily take that page, do a schema markup, do a local, send it back to Google and say, hey, by the way, we now have a physical address here too. And it's already ranked for you for the future. See, you're thinking ahead. You're thinking 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead so that you can grow. And if you decide you're going to branch out, that you're already ranking in the markets that you want to be in before you need to be there. Okay? So that's how you want to do it. And every one of those pages that you do that are city pages, you want them to link to the local city government site. Why? If you put the word Houston in there somewhere, you want it to link to the city government of Houston or the county. It needs to link back to something important. So you always want to link that page. Create a link in there, even if it's just one word with one link to the local city, to the local municipality, to that local town, to that township, whatever it is, you want to link it to that. Even if you're in a little township of 20,000 people, you want to link it to that government site, whatever that government site is. If it's registered as a .gov, that's where you want to link it to. Okay? Very, very important. Let's talk about images. And we're about 32 minutes out on this program already, and we're going to be talking about images. If you notice that if you do a search, images will pop up on Google as part of the search. Google ranks images very, very fast. So they will rank actually faster than your web page will. So if people are looking for ants and they're looking for a particular ant, let's say you have a particular ant that's a big, huge problem in your city. And that particular ant, so let's say it's a fire ant problem. All right, so you want to have a fire ant page, right? And when you're linking that fire ant page, you want to have an image on there of a fire ant. And you want to try to optimize that image with your logo. You want to brand that image with your logo in there. Okay? But that's for visual. So people see it and say, oh, ABC Pest Control and does fire ant mounts. Fire ant mound control. And there's a big caption on that, and there's a big fire ant there, and there's your branding. So you can brand it. But now you need to tell Google what's in there. So what you do is you name that picture the same thing that you named your page, the URL. Use the same keyword. And then also there's called an alt tag inside that picture that you need to do. And you need to alt tag that picture with the same keyword. Okay? So when Google is looking for, you type in fire ants, a picture comes out, and that could be a link to your website. That's one of the ways that you get customers to click on to your website. Now, if you're worried about all this alt stuff, don't worry, because the beautiful thing about WordPress is that all of this, there's a tool in there that actually takes you step by step by step. And until you do all of this, it'll tell you your page isn't ranked, and it'll give you a green light and tell you your page is now optimized. Isn't that a beautiful thing? But you still have to do the work. I mean, you can have all the chemicals, all the tools. You still need to learn to do it. The last thing I want to talk about, the 10th thing, is to make sure that your information is shareable, that you install share buttons on all your pages so that you can share them yourself across Facebook, across Twitter, across Google Plus, and many more social media sites that you can be on to get backlinks, which we're going to talk about on the next edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I hope that this has given you enough information that if you have an existing website, you can now go in and say, hey, are we H-tagging our pictures? Are we creating links to government sites on our information? Are we, do we have city pages that we've created? How is our sentence structure? Does the H1 tags, H2 tags, H3 tags appear? See, now you can talk to somebody and understand, and you can understand them, and they know where you're coming from. So I really hope that this has been helpful to you. And before I leave, I want to talk to you again about our sponsor for this podcast, which has been Audible. Now, I've been listening to Audible and audiobooks ever since I had cassette player in my car. I mean, I was a book junkie listening, and I used to have I don't listen to music. I listen to audiobooks. And you can get a first listen, your first audiobook for free by going to audibletrial.com/pestgeek. And there, if you use our code PestGeek, you'll get a free trial. It'll help out the podcast, and we would greatly appreciate it if you would do that. If you got any questions for us about the podcast, you can join the Pest Geek Society by calling 707-395-7378 with your question or comment, and leave a recorded message. Hey, and if we listen to it and we can use it on the podcast, we will. If you are shy and that's just way too much for you, well, that's all right. Just go ahead and send me an email to franklin@pestgeekpodcast.com, and I will go ahead and respond to that. If you're looking for the latest in pest news, you want to stay on that killer edge with the latest news, follow us on Twitter at Pest Geek Podcast on Twitter. There we have links from PCT Magazine, Entomology Today, and many, many university sites in your area that you can get news as it's happening from these sources. Check us out on Facebook at Pest Geek Podcast on Facebook, and now on YouTube, Pest Geek Podcast, all one word. Look us up on YouTube and check out the videos, the tutorials we're doing on SEO right now. Also, hey, if you want just one place where you can go get all this information, hey, why don't you visit us at pestgeekpodcast.com, and there's a link and there's buttons so you can get all this information in one place. Well, until next time, folks, it's been a blast talking to you, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.